Hello, and welcome to the Tower Coffee Hour. This is your host, Tyree. I had a chance to go to the Mobility Town Hall that was put on by Annick Beaudet, who is the Mobility Director for the City of Austin, and she had two of our council members, our own Qadri from District 9 and Chito Vela from District 4. They had some good things to say about the mobility and some terrible things to say about the expansion of I-35. So let's go take a listen.
Welcome to the council members' town hall. Jose Chito Vela and Qadri, we welcome you. I'm Annick Beaudet with the Project Connect office, and I know you have many choices tonight, but you chose to be here with us, so we appreciate it. Talking mobility. It's my pleasure to welcome you all, and I've had the pleasure of working with these two council members for over a year now, and I'm so impressed with their grasp of mobility topics that are wide and complex. I appreciate their knowledge on a broad level, but also the level of detail that they understand about their district. And I hope that tonight we can unveil a lot of mysteries around how the government works related to mobility, and talk a little bit about what's been going on behind the scenes with policy and projects, and get some questions answered, hopefully, that you may have, and that I know that you have spent time sending in to the council offices in preparation for this event. So without further ado, I want to do a quick introduction. Councilmember Vela represents District 4, and he's also serves on the Cap Metro Board, which is great. He knows a lot about transit, which I'm sure we'll talk a lot about this evening. He's also sponsored several important resolutions and policy documents related to mobility. One recently to have the city look at undergrounding utility lines that make for a better pedestrian environment, make room for shade trees, make the walk to businesses and residents along busy roads pleasant and shaded, and more importantly, give more room for more mobility infrastructure. Councilmember Qadri represents District 9 and serves as co-chair of the City Council Mobility Committee. Also appreciate his willingness to dive into mobility for the City of Austin. He's also sponsored several important policies around transportation over the last year. One of note is related to parking and accessible parking, and giving developers and those in our community, building our community, more flexibility in how we do parking. Our code has been over-prescribing parking for a really long time, and the resolution that he sponsored is helping us right-size these on the parking so that we can get more homes over parking. It was a really important resolution, and it's working. Site plans that have come in over the last 6 months since the resolution has seen a lower amount of parking, but still providing accessible parking, and still providing an amount to make the development work. So with that introduction, I'm going to hand it over to District 9, Councilmember Qadri, to have his opening remarks, and then over to Councilmember Vela.
Great. I think we're in District 4 though, but I'm glad I'm able to kind of kick this off. My name is Councilmember Qadri. I represent District 9 of the Austin City Council. Very thankful to be here tonight. Thankful for everyone in the audience being here. I think, much like Annick said, he could have been anywhere in Austin, Texas on a Thursday night, and you're here, which says a lot about your love of the city and love of mobility. I represent District 9 of the Austin City Council, and for those of you who might not know, District 9, I like to think of it as the best district in the city, though some people might differ on that. But it's the downtown area, it's Rainy Street, Hyde Park, Travis Heights, Golden Creek, it's the UT area, Mueller. It's a lot of really great neighborhoods. And I'm just very fortunate enough to be able to serve that community. I want to thank everyone who's out here tonight, from ATP to Cap Metro, to TPW, for city staff, as well as council staff. You guys are the ones who made this event a reality, and very thankful for you guys. And also, much like Annick said, questions. There's a lot of questions that were sent our way. Some of them a little bit more technical, but we made a commitment to make sure that anyone who has sent a question, the question is not answered tonight, right now. You will get an email response to that question. So you should be getting it shortly. But very much appreciate it, and appreciate Councilman Vela being here. Before I pass it off to him, just very much want to talk about mobility as I see it. And mobility, as I see it, is moving people, and not necessarily cars, and making sure that we put people first when we talk about our policies on mobility. And that means safety of people. And I don't think anything really defines that as much as Vision Zero. And making sure Vision Zero is a reality in the city where we don't see any sort of traffic that's in sort of pedestrian that's regularly around the street or a sidewalk. In one death is too many. And you shouldn't have to worry about when you go out to HEB or you make a run to your favorite taco place in D9 or D4, that are you gonna make it home, fine and safe? And same thing with your loved ones. When I was a student at UT in a very different life, I was walking from my apartment at the time in West Campus to the university, and I was cutting through West Campus, and a car came and did not stop at the stop sign and ran me over. And went in the gentleman's windshield, and when he put on his brakes, I went flying out, and I got pretty scarred up. Needless to say, I dropped that semester. But that story was very different. And for too many people in our community, in our state, in our country, it does that different. So we need to very much make sure that we prioritize people. Another way to do that is make sure we prioritize public transit, which we'll get into Project Connect, I'm sure the question sometime tonight. But very much want to make sure that we see the Project Connect vision that so many of us have become a reality. But I think overall, I just want to make sure we live in a community that is walkable and has accessibility to restaurants, to schools, coffee shops. And that's something, as a former resident of D9 and now living elsewhere in the district, I'm thankful for having those options. But I realize the privilege that District 9 has. That not every district has that privilege, and every community has that privilege. And I think it's extremely important that the realities and the privileges that we do see in districts like 9, we see on the east side as well. So yeah, very excited to be here tonight. Very thankful for everyone. I'm going to pass it over to Councilman Vela. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councilman. D9 and D4 are both, I think we can describe them as both urban districts. And they have very similar transportation needs, and in fact they flow really one into the other. The bottom of District 4 is essentially 51st Street. It kind of jogs up to 52nd and 53rd as it goes west, but that's the line. And there's just so much flow of every type of mobility option through those. But the Vision Zero approach is I wanted to start off with that because G4, District 4, unfortunately, has some of the most dangerous roads in Austin. Cameron, especially Cameron north of 290, but even south of 290, is a very dangerous street. There's a lot of deadly accidents and accidents with very serious injuries, especially north of 183, where you Cameron and Dessa, that really turns into a very freeway-like road, very difficult for pedestrians to cross, just generally speaking, a very dangerous road. North Lamar is a very similar situation. We still don't have sidewalks and some really basic mobility improvements on North Lamar. That's been a topic of conversation with transportation, and you can get that again as a very deadly and dangerous street. And of course, the most dangerous of all is I-35. That runs right through the middle of D4. Lots of very serious vehicle injuries, and that's right where the upper and lower deck split, combine, and things happen there. There's also been a number of pedestrian deaths at I-35 just north of 45th Street, 51st, through that entire area, because there are so few east-west crossings along there. So one of my goals on council would be to make improvements, mobility improvements in safe routes. And we've seen other cities take those steps. It's not some kind of magic formula that we're trying to figure out. There are some basic improvements that can be made to street design, to bulb outs, so that there's a shorter distance for a pedestrian to cross. Some really basic improvements that can be done that make streets much safer, not just for pedestrians and for bicyclists, but also for vehicles, because the vehicles have to slow down, and that improves safety for everybody. If there is an accident, it's at a lower speed. You know, a 20-mile-per-hour accident, it does a certain amount of damage. A 40-mile-per-hour or 50-mile-per-hour accident does a whole other level of damage. And so we've got to, in our urban core especially, get people to slow down, and watch out for kids, and watch out for pets, and all of that. Just a couple of quick, there is interpretation services, simultaneous interpretation services in the back. Si alguien necesita interpretación en español, sí tenemos alguien aquí para interpretar con el headset. And then I also wanted to point out the two maps. There's two maps pasted on the back, a D4 and D9. There's some sticky notes and some pens. And please mark, like write your note and say, kind of put it where it's supposed to be and say, hey, this intersection, this is what I want to do. It's just an exercise, during or after or whenever. We really want your feedback. And I'll end with, I don't think that there is a topic that I get more communication from than mobility and transportation issues. We get a lot of constituent concerns with regard to that, and the vast majority of them are, where is my sidewalk? Where is my crossing? We want, the constituents largely want improved pedestrian, bicycle. They want a corner store to be able to walk to. They want a coffee shop to be able to walk to. That's the kind of life that they are wanting to live. People increasingly don't want to be in their cars. Not all the time, not if they don't have to. And I hear that loud and clear, and I will continue to push for those kinds of improvements, as long as I'm the council member for District 4. Last, housekeeping, the food and drinks over there too. Again, please, feel free. I know it's late and people may have not eaten, so don't be shy about it. Go and get yourself something. And again, it's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely.
Something that Councilmember Mullen and I have chatted about on the maps outside. Leaving a sticky note on and what you'd like to see in that part of the area. But one thing that we talked about, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, potentially is Cyclovias. Yeah. So one thing that I thought about is maybe being a pilot program and closing, parts of downtown, whether it be 2nd Street, whether it be Congress. But you want to touch on that?
Yeah, this has been a concept. It's been done in Mexico City. It's been done in Bogota. It's been done all over the world. Paris, I think, has really embraced it recently. But what about a Sunday fun day on South Congress from the Capitol to Riverside, closing down the vehicles and invite all the bikes out and street vendors and we talked about it. His office has been working on it, and I hope to see it sooner than later. We need to circle back about it, but I think it's a great idea. It works so well in other cities, and I think people in Austin would just love it.
Great remarks. Thank you both so much. Ciclovia, I think, which is the right one? Ciclovia?
Ciclovia.
All right. So that's a good, I think, representation of what you both mentioned, which is people-centric transportation, moving people and not moving cars, which is what cities have been trending towards for over 2 decades now. And We have a North Star in Austin that guides our transportation projects that we see pop up in all of our districts, which is the Austin Strategic Mobility Plan, and it sets our values. It was adopted unanimously by council in 2019. It includes the Project Connect system plan as well. So it's an example of Metro and the city working together as one to provide seamless mobility for our city. And so a little bit on funding. Can you talk a little bit about how transportation projects are funded and how we prioritize them? And staff is definitely involved in working hand in hand with mayor and council on prioritizing projects, and we're happy to step in and help with that answer as well.
Yeah, and then we should go, and then we'll probably ask time for comments as well.
Okay. Let me start. I would say that there's a handful, there's a lot of different funding sources. Some of it is just straight up general fund that goes to different capital improvement projects, different transportation projects, street maintenance, property taxes, and one sales tax of the sales tax. The city keeps 1 cent, and a piece of that goes to the city general fund. Then there's also different mobility fees that are charged. That will go to, again, helping transportation. One of the more recent important developments has been, especially this would be for District 4, honestly for District 9 as well, has been that a new development, let's say there's a new apartment complex, that's going up on the corner of Cameron and 290, for example. That apartment complex has to pay essentially will be like a transportation impact fee as part of their development fees. They have to pay a certain sum to the city, and the city keeps that money, and it must be used though within, and I'm gonna have to ask transportation staff, but I can't remember if it's 1/8 of a mile or 1/4 of a mile within the radius of the project. So the idea being that the more development an area has, the more money is generated for transportation improvements adjacent to, in and around that area. So the city has for a long time been trying to kind of move forward and make development kind of pay for itself, or at the very least fund the impacts, increased transportation impacts, increased traffic impacts. And that's one that's been a very important source of funds for a lot of different D4 projects. And then the last thing I would mention would be JIT bonds. The voters of Austin have been very good about supporting bonds. We passed multiple transportation bonds. We still have a ton of transportation money that is unspent, and we're working on getting it out the door. But if you came today, you may have come along Airport Boulevard, where they have redone Airport Boulevard all the way from Lamar, and they've reached, I think, 55th now. They've crossed 290 and they've reached 55th, and there's a sidewalk, a bike path, there's protected medians. They've reduced the number of driveways to try to increase bicycle and pedestrian safety. So that's one example of your bond funds at work in the city of Boston, in particular, and actually in both D4 and D9, because it's going to go down to 45th Street when by the time it's all said and done, that Airport Boulevard project.
Great. I think you said a lot of them, but yeah, I think going on funding, local taxes, bonds, which Councilor Vela mentioned, but also being competitive for federal funding. And I think one thing that we're very grateful for as a dais in the city is having Congressman Doggett, Congressman Cassar, get $105 million for the cap and stitches. Every dollar that we get from federal funding is a dollar less than we're having to use as a city. So making sure that we continue to be competitive for that. Then I'll also add, it's not only about getting the funding, it's about making sure that we are able to keep that steady flow of funding. We have a state government that often comes after a lot of the projects that we're doing, Project Connect being one of them, it being on the chopping block. So making sure that we not only have creative ways of getting funding, but also making sure that it's not chopped away.
And one, I remind the federal funds, that's an extremely important one. And I've got to give the Transportation Department props and the city props because they received, I believe, the maximum award possible for the Vision Zero grant fund. The federal government had a big pool of money to do Vision Zero projects, which are basically safety projects to make roadways safer. And you could either get a planning grant if you didn't have a Vision Zero plan, or you could get an infrastructure infrastructure grant if you did have a Vision Zero plan. Not only did we have a Vision Zero plan, I think we were the only city in Texas at the time to have a Vision Zero plan, but we had passed bonds that had Vision Zero money in the bonds. So we had the plan, we had the matching funds required for the grant, and we ended up getting the maximum federal award under the grant, which again, the numbers come and go, I'm sorry, but I think it was in about the $20 million range.
Yeah, just over 23 million.
Yeah, and that is a lot of money, and that was going to, a lot of it was going to end up in D4 because they were targeting the most dangerous intersection. So I have to give the city, sometimes we don't sing our own praises. I mean, that was a really excellent grant application that is going to do a lot of good for the people of Austin.
If I can add, Cameron Road, work on Cameron Road is one of the corridors where we be advancing with that grant fund. So more to come on that later this year.
Great work. So combination of voter-approved bonds, fees, general fund, state and federal grants, and then partnerships too. I know both of you have fostered partnerships with the county, TxDOT, CTRMA, all of the other agencies that provide transportation services. It's really important that the city partner. So, while these are funding sources, there's always more need than there is funding. That's just the nature of cities. So in prioritizing projects, I know that staff has a process that we go from plan to project from our transportation plan, and then also from the different areas that you all just mentioned, Vision Zero, safe routes to school. But a big part of it is working with the community and then working with you both and other council members and the mayor in having events like this to get public input. And so I'm gonna maybe punt it to Anna Martin at Transportation and Public Works to talk about the prioritization process, and then have you both talk about what happens as you start seeing these priorities that are coming out of staff. And of course, we rely on you. You all know your districts really well to help us finalize those plans. So Anna, how do we get it started?
Thank you for that tee up there. We have a sidewalk plan, urban trails plan, safe routes to school, bikeways, transit enhancement. We have plans for all of our sort of priority modes of the city. And all of those are prioritized differently, but have the same underlying sort of goals. And that's access to school, access to transit, access to parks, and then equity, making sure we're serving all areas of our city. And every year we go through a planning exercise. We call it the Mobility Annual Plan. All of our groups come together, do a sort of a rolling 12-month look ahead of what they have planned. So we can look for overlaps, we can look at opportunities to plan and build better projects, utilizing all of our programs. So that planning process occurs. We meet with all the council members and their teams and hear from them, are we missing anything? Is there something new going on in the district we need to know about? We make adjustments based on that feedback, and then we publish it. It's online right now, the 2024 Mobility Annual Plan. And we have about 30 to 60 days where we seek public feedback. So that's out there right now. You can Google it. And then there's a website, I'm sorry, not a website, there's an email address you'll find down there. And if you have feedback or missing something, feel free to send that to us and we'll make adjustments where we can.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, that's a great, it's a great process that we have to maximize the funding that we have. There's a lot of projects going on in D9 and D4 for that process. 46th, 47th Street, Bennett Middle Fiscal Neighborhood Bikeway projects, for example, at District 9. San Jacinto Street and Trinity Street transit priority treatments are coming up this summer. In D4, we have bus stop and crossing improvements in Walnut Creek Elementary School. a new PhD at St. John's, and blessing and improvement block of Hutland at St. Francis School. So lots of small projects, which is a good segue into, you know, I'll say on behalf of staff, and I'll ask the council members how they feel. We're pretty good about small projects, getting small projects in for police sidewalks, pedestrian hybrid beacons, signals, things like that. But we struggle still a bit on our larger projects and challenges, like 51st Street in District 9 on the northern end of Mueller, and then the North Lamar Corridor project that has, you know, the more complex the projects get, the harder they get to do. And we are really working on that. We have a new department called the Capital Delivery Services Department that's going to work on that bigger tonight over there in the corner. So any comments on that, Councilmember Vela and Qadri?
We have done a good job. I think the sidewalk team in particular, I saw a lot of sidewalks go up in my neighborhood, and it was a beautiful thing to see. It was great too, because actually I had a little boy at the time, and I mean, it was during the pandemic actually, and we would just kind of follow the cement truck as it bored the sidewalk, and you know, I mean, it was hours of entertainment, child entertainment. And they were great. I mean, the Windsor Park, again, that's where I live, the neighborhood in the West has seen a lot of sidewalk improvements, and in general, in addition to the factors that Anna was mentioning, the city has an equity lens that they use, which are the neighborhoods and regions that have been disinvested, that have not gotten the sidewalks, the hybrid pedestrian beacons, you know, those kinds of improvements. And G4, District 4 has been one of the largest beneficiaries of both sidewalk money, bike lane money. It's been a huge benefit to District 4 in particular, and the goal is to keep it so we can almost never build sidewalks fast enough though. I mean, we're really trying to make up for, I don't know why we didn't require it years ago, but we didn't, and now we have a deficit in sidewalks that it's going to take us, you know, decades potentially to catch up on, even though we're throwing money at it as much as we can, but you know, there's only so many sidewalk crews you can hire, and you know, we're competing with all the other projects, so it's never going as quickly as we would like, but I do think that the city is doing an excellent job on moving through those smaller projects. North Lamar, a major capital improvement project for a road that severely needs it. It is a little stuck. There's a lot of complications there. There's not the proper drainage, and we can't do the road improvements until we've done the drainage, but we don't have enough money to do the drainage. It's a TxDOT road, so we have to build it to TxDOT standards, and things get even more complicated and more expensive. So we have not been able to execute on, on that project. And other kind of major investments like that, it's been, especially my sense, and I would love to hear the staff's perspective on this, cross-departmental projects like that, where we have to roll in, watershed and maybe move some water pipes and do those kinds of things like that. And any thoughts or comments?
I would love to talk about North Lamar for a moment. It is probably one of the highest needs in the city, especially that Brentford section. Really poor infrastructure. It was a named project in our 2016 mobility bonds. We put a lot of time in design. It's a TxDOT road. There's really poor drainage. There's huge Austin energy infrastructure. It's probably one of the more complicated projects I've ever encountered in my career. We got to a point where we had a plan we thought was workable. And the crazy thing is it cost north of $50 million, and it would have taken 9 years to build. And at the end of that construction, it would not have even fit the planned light rail that we hope will go there in the future. So at the end of the day, we made the really hard decision that that's not a project we need to move forward with right now. It needs a multi-agency approach, and that's going to include TxDOT, ATP, CAMPO, our regional planning organization. It's going to be a very challenging project, but one that is not off the list. We absolutely need to advance it.
Just to close out the comment on North Lamar, I have talked to TxDOT. It's a TxDOT road. It's really fundamentally their responsibility to improve that road. Once they start the I-35 project, North Lamar is going to be a deviation from folks, to hit the central disaster that's going to be, I-35 and reconstruction. So we're reaching out to them right now, talking about like, hey, I think that's a necessary improvement. Basically before you're going to knock out I-35, prepare North Lamar to take the overflow traffic and the folks that are exiting there at about, was that Palmer, I think, where North Lamar runs into I-35. So we're going to try to do everything we can to bring all possible resources to the table. I definitely want to bring TxDOT to the table for, again, hopefully some additional funding, and hopefully we can get that kick-started, but that's all part of the conversation right now.
Well, very quickly, and a few comments. I just want to build up with Councilmember Vela's comments on sidewalks. And I was grabbing here with staffer, and I haven't been in this part of town for a bit, but I know there's so many changes of the crosswalks and sidewalks and stations for pedestrians to get about and be able to walk that I hadn't seen earlier. And I think sometimes people take it for granted the simplicity of a sidewalk, right? Everyone just assumes there's a sidewalk everywhere. And Councilmember Vela's comments, there's a lot of equity issue in this city. And there's a lot of communities that, don't have sidewalks. And it's a burden on the pedestrians. They might be working late hours, and is now walking home, and they're either walking in a road, or they're walking on grass, or maybe it's on someone's property, and they might want to avoid that. So I am thankful for the city's investment and the work that we've done on something as simple as sidewalks.
Fantastic. So a lot of information, hopefully, on the work of the city of getting small to large projects done. It's challenging, but council, our boards and commissions and staff work hard every day to deliver the projects that we have teed up as a priority. So switching gears a little bit, I-35 project runs through both of y'all's districts, and there was a big effort by the community to reconnect I-35 and the physical divide that it's created in our community. Mobility can be a connector, but it can also be a disconnector if done incorrectly. And so we're trying to correct that. And so I know that the city was successful with the support of council and our and the federal government and our congressmen in getting a U.S. Department of Transportation grant for $105 million for the cap between Cesar Chavez and 1st Street. Councilmember Qadri, do you want to talk a little bit about that project in importance to your district?
Yeah, just I-35 in general, or highway expansion in general, I'm sorry. It's hard, right? It's bad policy. Highway expansion has never, in any city, in any state, improved traffic, reduced deaths, was good for the environment. Austin's not any different. It's bad policy. And I-35 in particular, and it's often been said, is this ugly scar that goes, within the city that separates East and West Austin. And I think this highway expansion just further divides that. So I know myself, many on the council are against that expansion. But we also realize our limits on the project going forward. So what myself and Councilmember Vela and many others have done and been in discussion with is talking to TxDOT and how to get the best version of a bad plan, where we take the concerns of stakeholders. So we're often in conversation with folks in Dana, which is the Downtown Austin Neighborhood Association, with the Cherrywood Neighborhood Association, who the folks in Cherrywood would be very affected by this project. And we take it to TxDOT, and there's a lot of back and forth of what works, what doesn't, and there's a lot of pushing and dialogue. But that's something that we are going to continue to do it and have done to make sure that we get, like I said, the best, worst project possible. And going off of the funding, we're very thankful for the funding from the federal government. Like I said, very appreciative of our congressman for getting that. But we know there's a lot of work to be done, and the city is also going to play their part, and UT will play their part, where it makes sense.
We're very closely, almost honestly, from the moment that Councilmember Qadri came on the dais, we were talking about I-35 because it affects both of our districts, especially right there where they meet at 51st. There's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of impact. He was a co-sponsor of a resolution that I had making demands of TxDOT, saying that if we need more east-west connections, we need capping as much as possible. We needed, for example, when TxDOT, the first iteration of the plan, they were not going to treat the water runoff coming off of the highway. They are going to do that now as the latest iteration of the plan, where the watershed is going to be piped and treated before being released into back into the Colorado River. It's been a really tough go because fundamentally, I completely agree that we should not expand the highway. It needs to be modernized. I think that upper-lower deck split is not it's a disaster, and that needs to go away. There's a lot of different things that could be improved, but I wish that TxDOT had stuck to the no higher, no wider promise, and unfortunately, they didn't. They are going to be taking a large amount of land, a lot of it in D9, and they're going to be adding a lot of lanes. But the caps do represent a very real opportunity to start stitching our city back together, east and west. I recently went to Dallas to go visit Clyde-Warren Park, which is a highway cap park that they have in downtown Dallas. And honestly, I was very, very impressed with what they did and how they did it. It's been extremely successful. It's turned into a bit of a central park for Dallas, and they've extended it once, and they're about to extend it a second time. So that was, and I've been to a highway cap outside conference in Phoenix for a rail conference, and we visited a highway cap that Phoenix has. At this point, there is really no reason to not cap a highway that is going through an urban area. It just improves the overall environment of the area. You create brand new downtown space that is potentially very attractive. The executive director of the Clyde-Warren Park gave us a tour, and we talked about it. The Clyde-Warren Park was built 2012, 2014. They had about $2 billion in property value surrounding Clyde-Warren Park when it opened. Today, they have about $7 billion in property tax value surrounding that park because so many people have built residences, offices around it because it's become such an attraction. So, as we look at that northern cap, from 38th to about Airport, UT is going to be capping its section there. The joke is like the new 40 acres basically for UT. I'm hopeful about the caps, disappointed that we're doubling down on highway expansion, which hasn't worked in Houston, hasn't worked in a lot of other places that they've tried it, but TxDOT is out of our control, unfortunately. It's their highway, and ultimately they're going to do what they want to do.
Yeah, I will say on that note that there is, because of the grant, there's going to be an open house on May 18th from 10 to 2 p.m., 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. here at the ACC Highland campus, close to here to provide input and start the process for what would the community want to see on the cap between Cesar Chavez and 4th Street. So an opportunity for input, which is a good segue. The highway expansion is going to provide managed lanes, and the good news about that is that express bus can use those lanes. And so let's transition and pivot a little bit to transit and how do Cap Metro and the city, your perspective on the board, Councilmember Vela, and your perspective, Councilmember Qadri, from the view of the mobility committee of the council. What are your expectations? What have you seen work? What would you like to talk about with regards to the city and Cap Metro partnering and the Austin Transit Partnership on Project Connect and our first phase of Austin Light Rail?
Capital Metro has been, is a great partner to the city. We coordinate with them on a lot of our sidewalk improvements. I know earlier it was mentioned that one of the places that we're really trying to put sidewalks is around bus stops, because people have to walk to the bus stop, they have to walk from the bus stop, and so we need to put a sidewalk there. And in addition to that, we gotta put a shelter, because it is way too hot and difficult to leave somebody out there just with a pole in the dirt, waiting for the bus. And we've been doing that slowly, but steadily. We've been doing that. I'm very, very excited about Project Connect. It is something for those of you that have been in Austin for a while. It was on the ballot, effectively, a very similar plan was on the ballot in 2000, and it lost by a hair. And I think about what would Austin look like if we had built light rail? If we had passed that bond in 2000, and let's say it was open in 2010, what would Austin look and feel like? I think it would be a much better city. I think it would have so much development that is spread out all over town, would probably concentrate right along that rail line, because it was going to go through downtown, it was going to go on Guadalupe, it was going to go through the heart of the city, South Congress. But what's done is done. They say that saying about when's the best time to plant a tree, the 20 years ago, the next best time is now. And that's where we are with light rail, where it's time to get it done. We have a good, solid plan that will begin to build the spine of the light rail. For those of you who don't know, it starts at 38 and a half, goes down Guadalupe and through downtown all the way. It's going to cross the river. It's probably going to make a little turn and then cross the river close to Rainy Street. The idea being that we want to pick up all of the people that are living in Rainy Street and have a stop relatively close to there. It's going to cross the river, and then it's going to go east on Riverside out to 183-71, basically where Riverside runs into the highway at the end of Riverside there. And then there's also going to be a line that's going to drop down to Old Thorpe and South Congress. And then the goal being that we're going to extend it south, we're going to extend it north, and we're going to extend it to the airport. My priority is getting a light rail. First of all, we got to get it built. First things first is we got to get the first portion built. But we really have to get to Crestview. Crestview is where the red line hits Lamar right there, and that's a natural transfer station for everybody coming in from Leander, Cedar Park, points northwest. The Crestview, it already has a parking garage there and a bus pull through. That could be the new North Lamar Transit Center, where all our northern buses are feeding into Preston, and there you transfer from a bus to light rail to more quickly and easily get you into town. So I just really want to get to Crestview. Just the last comment, though, one of the major barriers to this, and Annick alluded to it earlier, if you're driving north on Lamar from 51st Street, there are these huge electric poles along the sidewalk, really on both sides. And if we want North Lamar to be the corridor that it can be, we've got to bury those lines. We are not going to have the room to run light rail, maintain 2 lanes of traffic, bike lanes, sidewalks, with the right-of-way, with the electric poles taking up so much right-of-way in that area. That's going to be a huge project. It's going to be a very difficult and expensive project, but ultimately, if we want to have the corridor that we should have, we're going to have to move toward burying those utility lines. And I would say, as an unrelated to mobility, as a resiliency matter, we've got to start burying electric lines because we've done such a good job protecting our tree canopies. Our tree canopy keeps clipping our power lines. And you know, I mean, the beautiful, you know, 200-year-old oaks and overhead power lines are not mixing. And in general, we're going to have to do that. Austin Energy is coming back with an estimate at what that's going to cost. So we're at the very initial stages of hopefully starting a long-term plan to bury our electric lines.
What was the initial question?
Councilman Doug likes to talk about transit. It was about transit. It was segueing from I-35 caps to how does the city work with Austin Transit Partnership and Cap Metro to provide good transit services. And Councilmember Qadri, in your district, you're the hub in downtown at Republic Square there. There's so many people get on and off the buses at Republic Square and throughout downtown. So what are your thoughts on the future of public transit?
I'll answer that, and I also want to talk about project name. So I guess to improve ridership, I think changes in our land use will obviously help a lot with that. We voted on May 16th on a lot of really important items, but including ETOD, which is equitable development. I think the ETOD policy will improve ridership as more folks are living close to these transit corridors. I think also making I have it on me right now. Like these fun little Cap Metro cards, incentives for employers. Making sure that as many folks who work, whether it be city workers or elsewhere, are able to take our light rail and our buses. And I think it's been talked about that when folks visit, City Hall nowadays, they get a parking validation. Why not get a bus pass or a pass to use light rail to get home? As someone who now relies on public transit, I'm always using this little card. So I think there's a lot of ways we can help with improving ridership as part of the project. And that goes, going off a lot of Councilmember Vela's comments, we could have had light rail here 20 years ago when Mayor Watson was mayor the first time. And it's a real shame that we didn't, but I think this is our opportunity to get it right now, because this is not only an investment for everyone in this room, but it's an investment for your kids, because we are a growing city. We're not a sleepy college town of the past. Our land development hasn't been updated since 1984. Population in 1984 was around 480,000 people, with well over 1 million people now. And by 2100, here where I read this, people see the New York Times or Washington Post, we're going to be one of the 3rd largest metros in the whole country. So if we don't make the investments now, it's going to be other people who are suffering. So we're committed to Project Connect. Obviously, there's been bumps in the road with inflation hits, the COVID pandemic. We have a state government that is, for whatever reason, so fixated on Austin that they target our public transit system, and none of them live in Austin.
Because they're jealous.
So it's always about kind of being on the defense on that. But we're committed on it. We're excited about it. And I also want to be respectful of time if there are more questions.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground and a lot of different mega projects and small projects, from small to large, from the safe routes to school and the sidewalk project all the way to the Ivory Cabin Stitch. A lot of the questions that came in had to do also from your constituents on electrification of Cap Metro's fleet, which is about 25% now. Maybe some quick comments on that and what we're doing. I mean, downtown is very pedestrian friendly, which is good for our aging population. So those are 2 topics that came in for questions if you want to end on those 2 topics.
Comment on the electrification of the buses. I saw one on the way over here. You can tell which ones the electric buses are the ones that have the window in the back. There's no engine. It's an electric bus. Cap Metro is up to about 25% of their buses being electric, where, just to be frank, probably need to cap it at about there and kind of swallow and digest the maintenance, the operation, the physical infrastructure needed to handle those buses. They're long-term, they're efficient, they're good, but this is the first generation of electric buses. They're going to have, just like the first generation of electric cars, they're going to have little quirks and little problems, and we need to let the agency kind of learn and adapt and build out the infrastructure. Where the other problem with electric buses at Capital Metro, we're working that out right now, is a bus has to go. Bus starts at 5 a.m. and goes till about maybe 1 a.m. And the charge may not last that long, especially on a hot day or especially on a cold day where there's a lot of electric usage. And so we may need charging mid-route. But so Capital Metro has been one of the major embracers of electric buses. I think though that we're at a point where we may need to just understand that before we make any additional investments in the electric bus fleet. But of course the library will be fully electric, and that's an established technology that no one is worried about at all. So we are definitely moving away from the fossil fuel dependency and trying to, as much as we possibly can, move toward an electric-driven future.
Thank you. Yeah, what mobility needs of our aging population? Transit, sidewalks, a lot of the things you all have talked about today definitely work for Austinites of all ages. Is there anything more you'd like to add to that? And then maybe some closing remarks, and we'll let everyone get on with their evenings. And again, thank you all so much for being with us.
Yeah, I don't know if this is necessarily hits on it, but it's something that I wanted to bring up, which affects cost of living, which gives more of an emphasis on us not being so car-centered as a city. Was the parking mandate for removal of parking mandate resolution? And I think much like sidewalks and light rail and buses are kind of all for all ages. I think this is an item that helps everyone of all ages. A parking spot costs anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000. The cost hits the renter or the homeowner. And whether you're a young college kid or you're trying to age in place, now you're having to take on this additional cost. That hurts your pocketbook. So we were really glad to have the consensus to report this item, pass this item. We heard from Annick at the top of this that it's already that there's already site plans being suggested that don't have as much parking as they could have.
That's right.
And that only benefits those in Austin. Like whether you are a college kid or newlywed or kind of age in place, and I think that just speaks to where we are as a diocese and seeing the urgency of situations. And parking mandate removal of them wasn't something so out of the blue. This was a concept that former councilmember Chris Riley kind of championed. And 11 years ago, we had removed parking mandates in downtown. Now they're citywide. I'm glad we're already kind of seeing the ripple effects of it. But I think that's something that hopefully helps everyone.
Great, and I'm going to sit down. My job is done. I'd like to have y'all do your closing remarks around mobility, and thank y'all so much.
Appreciate y'all's information. A lot of the ideas that the D4 office is working on are driven by the different neighborhoods, are driven by folks that are saying, hey, come look at this little connection. We need to do this here. Hey, we need to do this here. And we are like, that's a good idea. And we'll go to transportation staff and we'll say, is this on the priority list? Where is it on the priority list? How are we going to get it funded? So please continue to bring those transportation ideas. They're very helpful. And I'll finish too with just another Metro plug. I'm on the board. I got to plug my agency. But another great mobility service that they're offering is their pickup service, which is this little van. And it's averaging about 15 to 20 minutes, but basically you call, you say, hey, I need to get from, let's say, my house to the HEB, or from my house to the bus stop, for example. And it's the same as a bus pass, it's $1.25 each way. and a little Capital Metro van will come and pick you up and drop you off within that zone. There's a bunch of them. There's one in Leander, actually. There's Northeast Austin one. The Dove Springs one just opened up. Capital Metro just crossed its 1 millionth rider on that service. It was one of the first transit agencies to roll out that type of service, and it's been extremely well received. And it's a great kind of that final link. You know, if the bus stop is too far away, if the grocery store is too far away, it's a great service to kind of try to plug that last mile problem that we have in transit. So look it up. It's a pickup service from Capital Metro. Highly recommended, and it's been a big success. And again, just thank you all for coming, and look forward to chatting.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to thank TPW, Capital Delivery Services, DPP, I don't want to make sure I don't forget anyone, and Cap Metro for everything tonight and everything on a daily basis. I want to thank city staff, our council staff for putting together this event. I want to thank everyone who's came in person and sent questions. If I said to the question wasn't answered, we'll get to your response. And yeah, just so very appreciate a lot of the work that we do and a lot of the policy that we work on. It's because of engagement and outreach to constituents, and you guys reaching back to us. So very much appreciate that. And I do want to plug in, I'm not on the Cap Metro board, but it is Bike Month. So I wish everyone a happy Bike Month. And thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon.
Well, that's it from Mobility Town Hall. Give a shout out to all the people who showed up and asked questions and got some good answers. So, till the next time, this is your host, Tyree.